Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah. Happy Wednesday. Oh, my God. So much going on. I didn't even know about this drone thing until about right after the James Show last night, and then it is really starting to take over the news cycle here, and it's primarily because we have just no answers so far, and I think it's kind of fun. Really, I think this is going to end up being something harmless. But right parallel to that, the other top news story of the day is we're learning a lot about Luigi Mangione, the guy that's been charged now with the murder of the United Healthcare CEO. Let's talk about it with my first guest, former Lieutenant Commander Joe Cardinale, back on the James Show. Welcome back, Joe. This whole Luigi situation, there's a lot of skepticism to this, and rightly so. What do you think about it?
I mean, they can have all the skepticism they want, but it's a solid case as far as the timeline and everything. We just there's so many questions that need to be answered, though. I don't know if that manifest in its entirety will show what his true intentions were. I mean, I have my own take on it. My thing is, you leave New York. He was gone that day. Everybody thinks it was like, oh, why couldn't they jump on it right away? They should have known he was going to the bus terminal. They didn't know anything until 3 days later by piecing this together. So that being said, he was in Altoona for 3 or 4 days. All right. Why bring everything with you? Why bring the weapon? Why bring the suppressor? Why bring your manifest and, go along the same thing and then put in the manifest that apologizing and saying that these parasites had it coming? Well, to my knowledge, he killed one person. All right. Why the plural on that? Was he trying to set something up for another kill someplace to make it plural parasites? We don't know. Hopefully we can get a rhyme or reason to it later on. But he'll fight extradition to an extent. But during that time, the NYPD will still continue to build their case up on what they already have and go beyond that now that they can delve into his knowing who he is, into his social media. But I just hope that it goes federally and gets, prosecuted federally, because I have no faith in Alan Bragg bringing this to a successful conclusion the way anybody would want.
Oh, well, Alan Bragg, such an accomplished prosecutor. How dare you, Joe Cardinale?
Yeah.
So like one of the paradoxes we have on this guy is, did he want to get caught or not? Because if you want to get caught, why run in the first place? Why not just turn yourself in like Kevin Spacey in Seven? If you don't want to get caught, then why are you running around with all the evidence tying you to the crime? And you probably have a better ability to come up with the hypotheticals on that. What do you think?
Well, this guy here, he's what do you call it? He's a braggart, right? He definitely is a braggart. He's cocky. All right. And he's out there, and you could see his demeanor when he was being brought into the courthouse. And now he's, using that stage to show everybody, look what I did, this and that. But what really, if you look at him from the time when he's everything they have, from being valedictorian to the time he falls, he goes off the radar for a little while. And then during that time, it goes off the rails. All right. They're blaming it on back surgery, the whole 9 yards. He comes from a, very wealthy family and everything. So where did this go wrong? Well, I don't know. Anybody these days can find that it's very easy to get radicalized. And the proof of the pudding for that is, look at the people that are supporting him with T-shirts and everything else, and they're like siding with him over the big giant of health insurance.
I said that out loud yesterday, and I felt embarrassed, because when I talk about the plot line of a really handsome guy disappearing off the radar for a few days, getting brainwashed, coming back and doing a planned assassination, that's the plot of Zoolander.
Yeah. You look at it, you don't know where this guy's mind is at for these things. People ask me all the time. I've done so many cases over the years, and gave my opinion on so many cases. And people have always asked me the one thing: what makes somebody do this? And the only thing I could tell everybody is, when that switch goes off, it goes off. All right, and that's it. I mean, you look at Lacey Peterson case, the same thing. What makes a father kill the mother and the unborn child? It's when the switch goes off and somebody's determined to do something, they're going to do it. That's just a description of pure evil. All right. And you're going to come across these cases. Right now, they have somebody that is pure evil. All right. He just executed somebody on national television because they put everything out there for everybody to see. All right. And I don't see any remorse in him whatsoever, other than saying his little pathetic apology that he wrote in that manifest. So, this is the day and age we live in, and I really think that we really need to step up to the plate with things and start identifying some of these people that are going off the rails, if we can, through social media. Let them change the logarithms where, the police departments do get notified on something like this that could possibly be happening. All right, but right now, all the crazies out there have just made healthcare executives their number one target.
Yeah, and a lot of our neighbors' response to this is leave me with the bad taste in my mouth. We're learning a lot about our neighbors. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it, Joe Cardinale.
Anytime, my friend. You take care.
I'm going to ask you the exact same questions. Why would a guy who's trying to get away keep all this evidence to himself? Is he a patsy? And was he supposed to return the gun and the fake ID and the silencer or whatever to whomever supplied it to him? And he just got tripped up along the way? Was he just trying to stretch the story out so it would get noticed, knowing he'd eventually be caught anyway? He just wanted to get some extra headlines while he's at it. Is he working for someone? Is he really working for himself? Did he want to get caught or not? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'll give you my 2 cents coming up in about 4 minutes on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Okay. Hey, sports fans. James Parker here for the Prize Picks app. I know there's no football in the middle of the week, but basketball fans, you got a chance to add a little bit of action to the sport you're already enjoying. If you're a Steph Curry fan, you can go on the sports Prize Picks app right now. And if you think he's going to get 25 points or more, you just hit more. If you think he's going to get less than that, less. And then after the game tonight, you can turn his success or failure, it's up to you, into a little bit of extra money. And now they're doing a new promotion. I went and checked this out. It sounds unbelievable. But depending on your lineup and what people you include, you could get up to 1,000 times your cash. So you could turn $5 into $5,000. That's not like a hypothetical. That's written into the app. I went and saw it myself. And so if you want to try it out, download the Prize Picks app. With your first $5 play, use promo code WBAP, you'll get $50. So what could you turn $50 into with $1,000? Oh, you're doing the math in your head. $50,000. That's right. So download the Prize Picks app, use promo code WBAP with that first $5 play, where you're going to get $50 in promo cash to play with, and you can thank me later. Prize Picks. Run your game. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If you're one of those do-it-yourself sleuths, you like to watch a lot of Cold Case and NCSI or Law & Order or whatever those shows are, 800-288-9227. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the CEO killer, Luigi Mangione. Wait, wrong button there. I meant to do this one. Anyway, but first, let's turn over to Christmas is for Caring. They still have the volunteers going on in the conference room here at WBAP in Cumulus, Dallas. And Neil Sperry still hosting it for the 45th year out of 46. Christmas is for Caring. What are we covering today, Neil? Thank you very much, Neil Sperry. All right, back to the first big topic of the day. Don't worry, I'll get to the drones next, but we got to finish what the heck is going on with this Luigi character because, all right, there's some obvious logical paradoxes here. And, of course, the guy appears to be a sociopath. So maybe logic just really isn't in the cards. But there's the paradox here of, was he trying to get caught or not? And these guys like to at least get credit for their work, if not get caught. You know, on a long enough time scale, all of them are revealed. And the thing Joe Cardinale was bringing up is that's just something that comes with being a psychopath. You got to brag about your work. You got to brag about how smart you are to get away with it. That's sort of, I don't know, maybe sociopath, probably psychopath if you're willing to kill like that coldly, because that's what you saw in the video. You're like, either this is a pro or a psychopath, or maybe a little bit of both. But the questions that come up are obviously, if you did want to get caught, then why not just go turn yourself in? If you didn't want to get caught, why are you keeping all this evidence on you? And I had a guy email me last night, and he said, what about this, Parker? I know this sounds a little conspiracy theory-ish, but what if someone supplied him with the gun, and someone supplied him with the silencer, someone supplied him with the fake ID, so he could go get the job done. Now, he's not working alone, and he's going to come back to meet this guy, this handler, and what? Maybe return the gun to him? Maybe return the fake ID and the silencer so they could get rid of it for him properly? Or, I don't know. That kind of makes sense. It could. I'm not saying that's the likely scenario, but we don't know enough to argue against this stuff, do we? All right, let's go to Crystal in Arlington. And what do you think? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Crystal in Arlington, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Hi, I just have a question, really.
Sure.
With Penny, and I think he's a hero personally.
Okay.
Because he protected people. He saw a threat. He took care of it, and I totally respect that. On another leg of that, let's say Luigi feels the same way. He saw a threat. He took action. So morally, I know we have laws, and I'm all about that. But morally, what is the difference?
Well, because the Brian Thompson, the United Health CEO, wasn't actively threatening anybody.
Well, if you read the stories and all the millions of people who've been denied claims and therefore died, you could argue.
Yeah, so then that brings into case is what's the difference between like an active threat and a passive threat, and then you've also got to establish the moral ground that denying a claim is the same as murdering somebody, or seriously harming them. And then you also got to
well, it's due to corruption and not just
right,
there's intricacies in this.
I think we all get what you're saying. I'm just explaining to the people listening to you and me chatting right now, Crystal, that the other moral layers that are on top of this, because if you do go through that rabbit hole and you start assessing, okay, well, denying a claim is the same as killing somebody, is the same is akin to murder, then you say, well, who made the claims process in such a way? Did the insurance company do that, or is the insurance company following the very tight, long, voluminous 70,000 pages of regulation that the government makes it play within? And so then the originating offender that came up with this system that, morally speaking, murders people by denying claims, then the onus isn't really on the CEO himself. He is just the utility. He is just the tool of the failed government regulations that force insurance to act like this. Because insurance isn't even the word for what we have now. We're not all
tools, but we're all tools, but we don't all deny people.
Well, I know, but then you're still leaving out the part where maybe you and me have a little bit of culpability in this, Crystal, because just because somebody gets denied for a treatment by their insurance company doesn't mean they just are thrown in the gutter to die. They could pay for it themselves. They could pay for it with.
There's just suffering.
I know. Well, sometimes there is, but sometimes you could pay for it with private voluntary donation. Sometimes you could pay for it with charity, whether it comes from a religious or secular group. Sometimes maybe we need to look around and say, if there's people that the insurance company is leaving to suffer, is there something we can do with our own private charity to alleviate this before we start murdering CEOs in the street? Absolutely.
It's just a question that's out there because a lot of people are talking about it, and that's where they're coming from.
Well, look, there's a sort of anti-Christian feeling that a lot of us get about this, where when we see some of our neighbors in our own society suffering, we're like, it's the government's fault. They should do something about it. We should have a program, or it's the CEO of this healthcare company, or it's the healthcare company, or the health insurance company itself. Maybe we should do something about it. Maybe if people are dying because they're not having enough resources put toward their healthcare, we could be doing something about it we are not doing, and maybe we're probably just as culpable as Brian Thompson ever was, if not more.
Not as culpable because we're not doing insider trading as well.
Oh, insider trading now. Insider trading now. Great discussion to have, though, Crystal. Great discussion. You sound like quite a few of my friends. So thank you very much. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to talk with Joel Griffith from the Heritage Foundation. The CPI, the inflation reports are in. Inflation's still burning through your cash. How bad is it? You'll find out next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, inflation's still going. It's not making as big a headlines. Now that the election's over, we're talking about dumber stuff and trying to solve mysteries. And people have kind of moved away from these kind of heady economic topics. But nevertheless, unless you got a 3% raise in the last year, you probably got a 3% pay cut, just like me. Joel Griffith is joining us from the Heritage Foundation. Just how bad is inflation in this latest report, Joel?
Well, these are some bad numbers once again on the inflation front. Year over year, the overall price index rose 2.7%. Keep in mind, the target is supposedly 2%, but it's even worse when it comes to the core rate. Was even higher, closer to 3% year over year. What's very interesting with this is the month over month annualized is even worse. Month over month, both the core and the general price index are rising at a 3.6% average annual rate. That is nearly twice the target the Federal Reserve has set. And yet the Federal Reserve is intent on continuing to lower interest rates, which are likely to stoke inflation even more.
Well, one of the underpinnings of a lot of us and our theories on inflation have to do with balancing the budget. Is there any hope that that could get done anytime soon?
Not in the near future, and that's because we are borrowing nearly 40 cents of every dollar that we're spending on the federal level on some years. And sadly, neither party seems to want to get that spending under control. In fact, the incoming president, even though he is definitely pro-growth on many of the business side and in cutting regulations, he says he doesn't want to touch Social Security spending, which we have to make changes to entitlement programs long term to get on the road to fiscal solvency.
Yeah, they're going to wait till that collapses. They only have like 6 more years of that, and they'll have to deal with it then. But I'm not surprised he's kicking the can on that because it's so radioactive, politically speaking. But when we look at the inflation number, we know this is a fudge number. We know chain CPI isn't even a real measure of the growth in prices because, you know, it brings in some assumptions like if the price of beef goes up so much, you'll substitute in more chicken. And so this is sort of a muted number. What would you say, Joel, is closer to the real number of the inflation that we're actually having to deal with out here in the real world?
Well, you've made a very good point. And one thing that I'm very concerned about is housing. The inflation number, when it factors in inflation for housing, basically just assumes that everybody is renting an owner-occupied residence. Well, I guarantee you probably about 2/3 of your listeners own their own home. And if you're looking to buy a home today, the all-in mortgage payment, insurance costs, property taxes on a standard home today are $23,000 more each year than they were about 4 years ago. Think about that for a second. So you're exactly right. The inflation numbers, as bad as they are, this 22% rise over the last few years, understates what most families are dealing with. And second of all, the inflation rate does not take into account the rising cost of consumer debt. We know that families have added, so a lot of families have added $10,000 to their credit card debt over the last few years. Well, if you look at the rising interest rate on credit card debt multiplied by the average actual balance, the typical family today is spending $1,500 more per year just on the interest on their credit card debt.
I feel like I'm being attacked here, Joel. Let's not bring up credit card debt, sensitive subject in the Parker household. Can I ask you, there's a weird anomaly that happened to Elon Musk. Within 1 day of each other, Tesla stock was both, it hit the magic numbers of, it was up 69% for the year, and it's now at $420. And what are the odds of that? Elon Musk said, just as the prophecy foretold. It's kind of hard to argue with that when those two magic numbers happen at the same time.
Hey, it's an interesting coincidence, but numbers are like that. The odds are small that would have happened, but I would bet you, at least the lunch, that Elon's prophecy had nothing to do with the stock price hitting that magic number at the time that it did.
So it's just a Christmas miracle. That's all it is. It's a Christmas miracle. All right, thank you very much. Joel, how they find your work outside of the James Show?
Go to heritage.org. Just put my name in there, and you'll see all my work. Thank you.
Joel Griffith, Heritage Foundation. Appreciate your expertise, sir. Yeah, I know you see the inflation every time you go to the old drive-through. Every time you go to the grocery store, it's a beating, isn't it? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to talk about these drones. Can't we just shoot them out of the sky? I mean, that's what a lot of people are already suggesting. And I know that's like our first instinct because, we're Texans and we got guns and we love guns and we grew up playing duck hunt. But shouldn't we have like a little more thoughtful, intelligent reaction to this? I know that's kind of my first one too. Like, I wonder if I can hit one. Like, got some buckshot, got the shotgun, it's got a nice spread on it. For real, what do you think's going on with these drones? Who's doing it? What do we do about it? Is this China? Is this Iran? Is this Russia? Who's messing with us? Or is it just some teenagers who ordered some drones off Amazon and they're having a good time watching everyone on the news flip out? 800-288-9227. Drone Talk next. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. What's going on with these drones? I'm asking you, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. First, let's check in with Neil Sperry, doing the Christmas is for Caring, the 46th annual holiday charity fundraiser for the Denton State Supported Living Center. Neil Sperry, so we have the garden. I heard you mention a gazebo. Do you already have one picked out, or are y'all just going to build to whatever resources you're able to take in? Accessible. We know what you're saying, Neil. Two 214-525-2550. Thank you, Neil. All right, back to the news here. Have you seen this on when you're scrolling through your phone or on TV yet? These weird drones that keep popping up on the eastern seaboard, New Jersey-ish area, because they show up, and that happens, irregularly. Someone has some cell phone video of some weird lights in the sky, but these are drones, and there's a swarm of them, and they do weird things. Like if you're on a boat that's off the shore, they followed around some of these people that are riding in their boats at night, and it's freaking people out, and we don't know where they come from. They look like they're coming from offshore, and so there's a couple of weird parts, legally speaking, about being in the sea that make it kind of hard to identify who's doing it and where it's coming from. And what do we do about it? We don't know who it's coming from. The government says it's not our drones. It's not drones from our military, and no, we don't know whose drones they are. So either they're lying to us, or they're covering something up, or they really don't know, and I don't know which one's worse. How do you not know? Okay, so what do you want to do about it? Well, some people's knee-jerk reaction is, let's start shooting them down. This is Chris Smith of New Jersey. This is not Yosemite Sam from Texas saying we need to go shoot them down, just whatever they are. Let's find out. This is a guy from New Jersey saying it.
But we always seem to miss something, and I'm very concerned that we're missing something here. I've raised the issue, as has my colleagues, Maliotakis and others in New Jersey and New York, about these drone sightings. So last night I was on the beach in Island State Park in Ocean County with the sheriff. He has been working it every single night. He's got his own tethered drones chronicling. One of his officers 2 nights ago saw 50 drones come in off the ocean right there.
Cool.
We thought maybe they'll replicate it. They didn't, but we thought it was a possibility. Last night we had a number of other people there, including a commanding officer from the Coast Guard, who said that one of their 47-foot motor lifeboats was followed by between 12 and 30 of these drones as they went through the water.
Creepy.
Right behind them.
Creepy.
And I said, what's the rules of engagement? I mean, you do it if you're fighting against a narco trafficker or something. And they said, we don't know. We don't have any. So I did reach out to the commanding officer at the Joint Base, which is also in my district, and talked to him. Had a very good conversation. Colonel Anthony Smith, Joint Base Fort Dix McGuire, in the 87th Air Wing, Air Base Wing.
Here, I'll summarize here. Too long didn't read. He wants to shoot them down. We don't know who they are, where they're coming from, so let's shoot a couple of them down so we can find out whose they are and where they're coming from. No. Shouldn't we at least wait till they do something bad first? They haven't hurt anybody. They haven't bothered anybody. Following someone around from, 300 feet in the air is not a crime, I don't think. Michelle in Grapevine, you're on WBAP. What do you think about these drones?
I definitely think these drones are from our own military. They're in that military corridor, and they're lying to us. They know what they are, and if they are a foreign source, they know that too. So we're just being lied to about it. And I know one thing, if I've got a drone flying over me and I feel threatened by it, I'm popping it down.
You got a shotgun? Is that what you would use? Do you already have a preferred drone gun?
I have an array of weapons, just depending on the distance.
Oh, now how accurate are you? I would have to use a shotgun. There's no way, even with all the duck hunt that we played growing up. I'm a terrible shot considering where I'm from.
You must not be from Texas.
Well, I am from Texas, and I'm from a horse ranch in Texas. I used to go out in my backyard and shoot all the time. I don't know. My mom's a better shot than me still, so I can't brag too much about my prowess. But there's no way you could shoot a gun with like a 22 from thousands of yards away. Shotgun maybe, sniper rifle maybe. Listen how confident you are, Michelle.
Pretty confident.
Well, I like that. Well, has it been your observation that women are better shots than men?
No, not at all.
Really?
I love men,
Okay.
So I think they're great shots.
All right. Well, I've just noticed that, especially under those who have not been through the military, just naturally speaking, women are better shots. But can we do that? Can you just start shooting down drones? I don't think you can. That's somebody's private property. It's like they're about to start with these Uber Eats robots to deliver here in downtown Dallas, and these little boxy things that are on 6 wheels. They're going to be going autonomously through traffic and through the sidewalk, and they go about 5 miles an hour. Are people going to start shooting those? You can't just destroy people's property, especially if you don't know whose it is, especially if it's not over your property. And if it is over your property, what's the ceiling between where you can shoot it or not? Because you can't shoot airplanes that go directly over your property. You can't just shoot stuff. I know it's fun. I know that's my natural instinct too, is just shoot it, but we have to suppress that, or do we? 800-288-9227. And I think Michelle's right. There's no way these people don't know. They have satellite imagery everywhere. They've had, eyes on everything, especially over the ocean. They got radar. They got boats. They know. They just don't want to tell us. And I guess they didn't want to tell Chris Smith, the Republican congressman from New Jersey, either. Your theories, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. AC/DC is coming to AT&T Stadium April 14th. Special guest, Pretty Reckless. For more information, you can go to livenation.com, but it's one of our contests we have going on right now. If you want to try and win a pair of tickets, text POWER, the word POWER, to 800-288-9227. POWER to 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome back to the big show. Remember, we are your home for blessedbethefruit.org. You can order your Super Bible at blessedbethefruit.org now. The Super Bible is the ultimate holy book from the Old Testament, New Testament, Constitution, and Project 2025, all in one book. Order yours today at blessedbethefruit.org. Never gets old. All right, my next guest, Lee Richardson's coming back on from the Brain Performance Center. And you're a good person to talk to in the situation where we're trying to get inside the mind of Luigi Mangione, the CEO killer. And is this guy just a psychopath? Is that what you see? Because we're all just throwing out these diagnoses, but you do this for a living. What is this, a psychopath, a sociopath, a narcissist? What would you diagnose this guy as, Lee?
Well, that's a good question. Here's a guy that obviously has some issues, and I think that there's been a lot of red flags that he's got some issues going on. He has disconnected himself from his social media, which he was very much connected to. He has been in a situation where he's had a surfing accident. He's been in a lot of pain that impacted his social connections, his ability to connect with people. And the connection between the brain and the body is so strong. And when someone is in a state of physical pain that they can't even lay down, the brain isn't working real well. Then your vulnerability level comes up so high. And so, all the narcissists, psychopath, all those things, he may have a little bit of all that in him. But how do you look at that and how do you say, why did that drive him to do what he did? Because obviously he planned it.
Well, yeah, and I think pain is a great explanation on why someone would trip like that. And I hurt my back once, and I was just laid up in a bed for about 4 days. And after like 3 days of this, I'm like, if this continues, I'm going to kill myself. This is not any way to live life. I can't even get up to hardly go to the bathroom without just almost being in tears. So if that's what this guy was going through, he didn't look like it in the video, though. It looked like his back was working fine when he's executing an innocent man in the street and having to re-rack his gun and then get on the electric bike and take off. When he's talking to a lady at Starbucks, he didn't seem like he was in pain then. So how do you feel about that, Lee?
Well, I think you're right. I mean, he had a smile on his face in one of the photos that I saw online. But I think that when he's riding that roller coaster, fight, flight, freeze, and that when you're riding a roller coaster, you don't know what you're doing. You're just reacting. And I think that his adrenaline was flowing. Anytime you start, those adrenaline glands start kicking out that cortisol, and the brain starts cooking out those neurotransmitters, that dopamine, that feeling of reward.
Yeah, that sweet dopamine hit, Lee.
Yeah.
All right.
And
let me ask you the next question. I'm just sorry. I was looking at the time and I have like 4 more questions left. How do you identify psychopaths like this in your life? How do you I would like to know if Garrett's a psychopath or if Mike Traina in the other room, if he's a psychopath. So what traits do you look for as someone from the Brain Performance Center?
Well, I think what you need to do is look for red flags. How is their behavioral change
Garrett.
from what it used to be?
Mm-hmm.
And, when you see those behavioral changes, they can't sleep anymore. They don't eat anymore. They don't come out of their room anymore. Okay, that's something that should be of concern. And you see enough red flags, and that'll open a door for you to make some decisions.
So it's not Garrett, it's probably Joseph. I think that's what you're saying to me. Well, also, Lee, let's look in the mirror here. How do I know I'm not a psychopath?
Well, how are you sleeping? How are you getting along with your coworkers? How are you getting along with your family members? How are you making decisions? Are you prepared for life? Are you able to plan on a strategic level? I mean, look at, it all goes back to behavior on a cognitive and an emotional level.
Well, I know I'm fine because I like to spend a lot of time in the garage cutting out magazine clippings, putting them on a big bulletin board, and then putting yarn strings between the connections that I see. And so that helps me deal, and that's how I know I'm not crazy.
Well, I love my vision board, and I just finished mine for 2025, so I'm not going to disagree with that.
What movie was that? A Beautiful Mind that I'm referencing? Anyway, do these people know that they're psychopaths? Like, if you're a psychopath, do you know?
I think some do, and I think do they know it all the time? No. In a moment of weakness, when they know nothing, they may come to that conclusion on their own. But I think a psychopath, you're riding a roller coaster. And that's the problem.
I think it's really hard from what I've read for a sociopath to diagnose themselves. But if you're a psychopath, he's probably thinking, well, I did just murder a guy last week. I think I hit another crucial bullet point in the symptoms for psychopathy. Whoops. But, sociopath might be a little hard. And narcissists are unable to have any sort of self-criticism. So it's almost impossible for them to self-diagnose. Or am I just off my rocker?
No, I think on the narcissism, you're exactly right.
I've been trying to read up on this so I can insult people properly or diagnose my coworkers properly. Looking at you, Joseph. How do we find your work outside of WBAP, Lee?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Dr. Lee Richardson, and we've got the good old-fashioned website on Facebook and Instagram, thebrainperformancecenter.com, and thebrainperformanceinstitute.co.
And y'all are, what are y'all on, Mockingbird over by the airport?
No, we're at Preston Center.
Preston Center.
Highway, yeah.
I knew you were around here somewhere close. All right, thank you very much, Lee Richardson from the Brain Performance Center.
Thank you.
Coming up next, if you have any theories or diagnosis on whether or not Garrett's a psycho, 800-288-9227. I think we all know the answer is yes. But in about 4 minutes, you're going to hear Caitlin Clark. She got interviewed because she's Time Magazine's Sports Person of the Year, and that's fine. Athlete of the Year, fine. That probably fits. But I don't think you're going to like what she said in her interview. That's coming up next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hola, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Caitlin Clark came with a little controversy. She got named Times Athlete of the Year for 2024, and I think that's appropriate. Is she the greatest athlete of the year? Of course not. Is she the one that probably got the most attention? Okay, I see. Did she make some big changes? Did she kind of shift the paradigm, the way people talk about her sport? Yeah, okay. I get it. You're just not going to like what she said in her interview. I'll tell you after we talk to Neil Sperry, who is continuing with the Christmas is for Caring drive for the Denton State Supported Living Center. And Neil, you're putting in 13-hour days all week for this. I don't think you've gotten enough credit for what you've done over the decades. Talk about your contribution. Look at. Thank you very much. And look, I made Neil Sperry blush. But ADLs, all you all-day listeners, you noticed that, right? He's been doing this at 6 in the morning, and he'll keep doing these little quick hits with us, supporting the people in the phone bank behind us. And they're here for 13 hours a day, too. There's 8 people. You don't know their name. They're never going to get any credit for it. There's not going to be any statues or posters or not even a Starbucks gift card given to them. And they're just doing the right thing because they just, want to make the world a better place? Kind of the opposite of a sociopath, narcissist, isn't it? Need more angels like that. Okay, so let me pass along what Caitlin Clark said that's got so many people's panties in a wad. Where's the quote here? Because I have it in my notes. Here it is. When she's being interviewed by Time for Athlete of the Year, she says, "I want to say I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, oh no, I don't even want to know what comes after this. It's going to be embarrassing. It's going to be some grovelly dog with a tail between the legs attitude. I hate that. I'm sorry. I got to admit how embarrassing and awful it is to have my skin tone. I really do regret it." Anyway, let me continue. I want to say I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, there is privilege. A lot of these players in the league that have been really good have been black players. This league kind of has been built on them. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, and then continue to have brands and companies invest in those players that have made this league incredible, I think it's very important. I have to continue to try and change that. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing. Yeah, if basketball is known for one thing, it's for suppressing the achievements of our black neighbors. That's right. That's what... God, is there any institution that highlights and celebrates awesome black people more than professional basketball? And Caitlin, actually, she's half right. She is standing on the work from people that came before her. But it ain't female basketball players that have made the WNBA what it is today. It exists totally as a charity of the NBA. Millions and millions of dollars are taking from the earnings of the predominantly black men in the NBA and subsidizes your league, which is, look, I don't want to say the WNBA. It's not like, I'm getting in trouble for this. In some ways, it's like the Special Olympics or like the Paralympics or like the Women's Olympics. You know, there's the Olympics, there's the open court that just the men dominate, but it's not because the NBA is the MNBA. It's just open to the best basketball players, period, point blank, end of story. If there was a woman out there who could do a 360 dunk right in LeBron's face, she would be in the NBA. There's nothing holding her back. But what do we have? Well, we have to put aside these leagues so these people can compete against themselves, because in the open court where it's a meritocracy, you're never going to make it on the floor. You wouldn't even be the 15th person on the bench for the worst team in the NBA, in the developmental league, on a community college. So yeah, you didn't do this all yourself. The WNBA is a wholly supported charity of the NBA, men, predominantly black, but it's all races. There doesn't have to be a racial angle to everything, you know, because here's who she should really be thinking: LeBron, Luca, Steph Curry, Anthony Edwards, the ones who came before them, you know, the Kobe's, the Dirks, and then before that, the Barkleys and the Jordans, before that, the Larry Birds and the Magic Johnsons, before that. It goes all the way back. That's who you should be thanking. And you know what? It's okay to admit that your success is due to your talent. Yes, there's amazing black female players in the WNBA. Some of them have been better than others. But you are one of the best. You did go through college and break all their records. You hold the record for the highest scoring female basketball player. And I think male or female, didn't she beat Pistol Pete's record? Something like that. But you beat them all. And it has nothing to do with the color of your skin. It's not like the basketball rim opens up and is like 50% wider when a white person shoots it. You made all those buckets. You did all that. It's okay. It's not privilege. And I don't think it is a privilege to be a white person in basketball. You think people, when they don't know anything else about you and we're lining up people on the wall and we're going to pick for teams, we're going to play pickup games, people falling all over themselves to go get Caitlin? Give yourself some credit. You're 5'10". I could probably beat you at basketball. And I'm not saying that just to be like a smart mouth. Please, I'm 6'3". I'm in decent shape. I'm pretty good at basketball. But listen, you deserve the credit. You're, for a female player, an amazing talent. You broke records, and then you came into the WNBA and you were Rookie of the Year. And then on top of that, you have a little media sensation about you that not other people have. Is that because of the color of your skin? I don't know. Maybe that does play part of it. Kind of like when Jeremy Lin came up and he was an awesome point guard in the NBA for a few years and he was aging. We're like, hey, that's neat. But it's not because of a privilege. It's because you're almost a novelty. Oh my goodness, can you believe this person is that good? She certainly doesn't look the part. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227 if you got any opinions on that. Coming up next, so now that we have the Syrian rebels invading Damascus, knocking over Bashar al-Assad, are things about to get better or worse in the Middle East? I'll talk to retired Major General Bob Dees next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I just finished. Oh man, great timing, great timing. I'm glad you're here. So they are voting right now in Congress on a Senate amendment to occur within HR 5009. Look, it's the defense spending bill. I'm sorry. Let me introduce myself. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, WBAP, just in case there's new people. But the important part of this amendment is it would include a ban on transgender care for minors. And I was just watching the time remaining countdown on it, and it looks like it passed 264 to 141, which is weird because that still leaves 26 people who didn't vote. Now, sometimes, there's people who are absent, or maybe they got the runs, or they had a doctor's appointment, or had to go to a funeral or something like that. So it's not that crazy to have missing votes. I mean, usually you don't have 26 missed votes, but 17 Republicans voted against this. 195 voted for it. 69 Democrats voted for it. Nice. And 124 voted against it. So it passes 264 to 141. Now, that doesn't mean it's a done deal. It's just interesting to see if we can get that step in the right direction. Then again, I don't know what the rest of the bill looks like. What if some of this defense spending bill is going to send more money to Ukraine and more money to Israel and more money to Taiwan and more money to NVIDIA or more money to Africa or more money to Syria? I need help breaking this down. Bob Dees is joining me. He knows a little something about these things. He's just a retired major general from the military. No big deal. Welcome, Bob Dees. Breaking news on the defense spending bill. Do you know any more about the particulars of that bill? I know that's unfair to ask you on the spot like that, but welcome to the show.
Yeah, you bet, James. Good to be with you. I hate to plead ignorance here, but I'm not read into the current NDAA proposals. I certainly would agree with that transgender ban and some of the other wokeness that's in the military. So I'm hopeful that the NDAA can continue because our nation needs robust and continuous funding of the military. It's very expensive to play on again, off again with the budgets for the military and weapons procurement and so forth.
I hear you.
That's about all I'd offer right now, James.
Yeah, I'll be looking in that, and I'll have a report for you tomorrow, Bob.
Yeah, cool.
With the topics that we were planning on discussing, Syrian rebels knocked off Assad in Damascus. Do you see things getting better or worse in the Middle East after this?
Yeah, I see things getting better. I think, it's a dangerous neighborhood, and Syria was one of the biggest thugs. And with the demise of Assad, a lot of people are cheering that, except for Iran and Russia, of course, because, they potentially in Syria, chemical weapons, resurgence of ISIS from eastern Syria, impact on Israel, Middle East balance of power. Syria had become a narco state, basically, that had really impacted a lot of the countries in their region with drug traffic. So you name it, there were a lot of negatives. And yes, it's going to be uncertain. There's going to be a lot of good intelligence work that needs to be had to make sure we don't get surprised by ISIS or others. But it's a net gain, I believe, for Israel and for the United States in the Middle East.
Who is in charge now?
Well, it's a good question. The HTS is the group that has taken over primarily, but it's hard to know who's in charge because every day there's a slightly different report. It appears that they are tightening up on Sharia law and that they've recently, the last 2 days, have said they're going to prosecute for war crimes. So some of the previous regime, they're going to be headhunting for those folks and some of the things that they have done against the Syrian people. So these HTS folks, they are apparently in charge right now. But what we don't know is how they will administer and govern. That's a different thing.
Boy,
it could be. Yeah, I don't think they'll be as radical, though, or as dictatorial as Assad was.
That's got to be unfortunate for, his tight cadre of generals who are about to, probably be put to death or hung at the gallows soon. He's just going to, spend out the rest of his days just playing with his food in Moscow?
Maybe. I don't know. Frankly, there have been multiple reports about where he really is. I haven't heard 100% confirmation that he is in Moscow eating his, peas and carrots, but maybe he is.
All right. Well, I appreciate your expertise here, Bob Dees. Where can they find your work outside of WBAP?
Oh my, it's good. Healthyveterans.org. We do a lot of great things for veterans. We're get them back out on the street, do good things for America. We have tiny homes, trauma recovery, a 9-month course, and we're seeing great outcomes. So we're pretty unique across the United States in terms of our business model. We're sustainable farm ranch construction operations, and we take referrals, so people can go to healthyveterans.org. They can refer somebody that's stuck in their parents' basement playing video games or under a bridge or incarcerated, or maybe they've tried to outrun their trauma with their job. There's all sorts of conditions of people we take here, but we help them get healthy and get back out on the street. So appreciate you asking. We also had a pretty significant barn fire, total loss, and so we need a little end-of-year help on recovery operations as well. So if people go to that website, we'd sure appreciate any way Texans can help us. We've got a couple of Texas boys at the National Center for Healthy Veterans right now. And so help us help them, if you would.
Healthyveterans.org. Thank you very much, Bob Dees.
Thank you. Appreciate it, James. You do a good work.
Thank you. Major General Bob Dees on the James Show. Coming up next, I was cracking up at the headlines and just writing little punchlines and jokes for the show today. And I came up with so many, I'm just going to compile them all and do them in the next segment. In a monologue of jokes. That's next on the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If you want to jump in the conversation at any point, you don't need an engraved invitation. Just call 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Today's monologue of jokes is coming after we get you updated with today's Christmas is for Caring with Neil Sperry. Welcome back to the James Show. Where are we at on this year's edition? Thank you very much, Neil Sperry. 214-525-2550. There's 8 people in the conference room behind me. Make them busy. They don't want to just sit there and do nothing, eating snacks, even though they do have the Flamin' Hot Funyuns in the snack box. Did you see that, Garrett? They brought chili yesterday. Yeah, I got some chili. All right, hey, time to tell some jokes. Sometimes they just pile up, and I got to get them all out in one segment. So welcome to the monologue. I am your host, James Parker. Oh, thank you. Stop it. I love you, too. Well, for Christmas, the Atheist Alliance has produced an anti-Christmas TV special for Netflix. It's called It's Not a Wonderful Life. There's a warning from doctors against eating raw cookie dough. They say it puts you at risk for salmonella and having a fat ass. My grandma said that in one word, fat ass. So Daniel Penny was acquitted in the Subway chokehold case. DA Alvin Bragg couldn't be reached for comment. A spokesperson said he was eating. Because he's fat. Garrett, something you'll learn, you can only make fat jokes about guys. If you make them about women, people think you're bad. Jussie Smollett got his conviction overturned. The craziest part of that story, though, for me is the bleach. Because there's all kinds of bigots out there, racist, homophobic, maybe even political. But there's no such thing as a bleach-wielding anti-textile bigot. That's clearly made up. But no, that's a fair point. Have you ever heard a story on the news your entire life where a dude was mugged in the street with bleach? It's a bleach mugging. Why would anyone be carrying bleach at 2 a.m.? Why? In case you see someone you hate, you can make their Old Navy stretchy pants look a little splotchy. Is that the goal? Your master plan? Archaeologists in Nazareth claim to have found the childhood home of Jesus. They say it was a modest place, but the rent was ungodly. Oh. That's a dad joke of the day. Did you hear Hunter's got a new motto after the pardon? He put it on his Facebook page. It says, when life gives you lemons, make sure your dad's the president so you can skip the lemonade and go smoke some crack. Kind of a wordy motto, but it works. And finally, Dallas Cowboys have lost so many players to injury this year. Dak, DeMarcus, Zach, DeMarvion. Today, even their water boy twisted his ankle. Can't catch a break. He's going to be out for like 15 months, man. You're going to have to get your own Gatorade or something. God, that's stupid. All right. Hey, another quick update. So we had, I was talking about the last couple weeks. People have asked about a get together, and I was going to try and throw one together before Christmas so we could have like a little meet and greet or whatever. We had a venue where it's James Show listeners that own and run the place, and the people that work there even. And so I said, if I got 20 emails, then I'll go ahead and contact the owner, say, yeah, we've got a time and a place, and let's do it. And so I didn't get 20 emails, so we're not going to do it. I have more people saying they want to do the event. I had more than 20 people saying they want to do an event. But when I asked specifically, and I realized I only did this one time on one show, and that's not fair because people listen at different times and different hours. And for a lot of people, this is the first time you're hearing about it. But I didn't get 20. So now I'm not going to do the event. We were planning on doing it next Tuesday. What would that be, the 17th? At the RBG. I remember because Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but it's the Richardson Bar and Grill. So cool people offered to host it for me. I checked it out. I'd driven past there, but no, they got plenty of parking and it's a pretty big space. It looks like a perfect place to do it. They got pool tables. It's exactly what I'm looking for. But then when I threw it out there, not enough people popped up. So I'll give it another chance here. If you want to do the event on Tuesday, December 17th, I'm looking at 7 p.m. So, you can get off work, go home, change, smoke a cigarette or something. I don't know. Put on your comfortable shoes, and then come out. And it's kind of centrally located. I know a big chunk of our listeners are up north of here, and I'm downtown, so I probably can't stay downtown. I figured that was the perfect location, but seriously, I didn't get the interest. James@wbap.com is my email. I got like maybe 8 emails and probably like 6 Facebook messages, but a couple of those were saying, I would like to go do it there. I just can't do it that night. And a couple of people were saying, I just can't do Wednesday because I got church and I thought you were a Christian. It's like, well, how late is your church? Because if your church gets out at 8, you can come. We'll still be there at 8:30. So I'm just throwing it out there again. If you want to have an event, if you want to meet not just me but other James Show listeners, nice little meet and greet, we can all be a little community of friends. Send me an email, james@wbap.com, or a Facebook message or Instagram, wherever you find me. Send me a message. I'll try again, but I'm not going to have it if there's no interest. It's not just going to be me and like 2 people staring at each other for 3 hours. All right, coming up, when the James Show returns, we're going to talk to Laura Reese from the Heritage Foundation about a new report on immigration. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. See, this is what I'm talking about. You think I'm like famous and well known because you listen to the James Show and you just assume, oh, there must be thousands of people listening. And there are thousands of people listening. That doesn't mean they want to meet. That doesn't mean they want to go to Richardson. I got, on the break there, 2 emails and a Facebook message from a lady named Jamie. So 3's not going to do it. I'm not going to have an event if it's going to be me and 3 people. Not that I don't like them. It's just I'm waiting for 20. If you want to have an event, I need to get 20 emails or messages saying you'll go to the Richardson Bar and Grill Tuesday, December 7th at 7. 17th at 7. All right. So James at WBAP.com. Give me the messages or I don't want to hear about it. Or you can call in 800-288-9227. All right, let's talk to Laura Reese, Heritage Foundation. She comes on to talk about some of these immigration situations. And right now there's a new report that I saw at heritage.org about 50 principles and policies that may be changing to overhaul America's immigration system. Before we get into the particulars, Laura, overall, does this sound like a pretty good slate of policy changes?
Well, I think so because I wrote the report. And this is something that I have been developing over a number of years, just dealing with immigration laws and reading the statutes and prosecuting cases and reading more congressional bills. It is true when people say immigration law is the second most complicated set of laws after the tax code. And it doesn't serve anybody well. It doesn't serve U.S. citizens well, or employers, or family members, or immigrants, or adjudicators. It's just been too expensive, too slow, too complex to try to follow. And after what the Biden administration has done to our immigration system and erasing the rule of law, it's time to start over.
Well, Laura, I don't know. The Heritage Foundation, you are the demons who wrote Project 2025, and that's from Satan himself. So how much does this overlap with what you guys have already put forth in previous works like Project 2025?
Well, this goes farther. So in Project 2025, we talk about the organization of the Department of Homeland Security, that the immigration agencies are too fragmented across many departments, not just DHS, but DOJ and Health and Human Services and State Department, et cetera. Those pieces need to be put back together if we want a functioning immigration system. And Project 2025 calls for return to a lot of the successful policies of the past, whether that's remain in Mexico, to get rid of asylum fraud, whether that's requiring an alien to seek asylum protection in the first safe country in which they enter, et cetera. But this report, this new report that's out, goes farther than that. It talks about dealing with the backlogs of cases that just keep growing. If you look at the immigration cases pending in the immigration court system, before Joe Biden, they numbered 1.2 million cases. Now that is up to 3.7 million cases in court. Add to that the applications pending at DHS, which is about 9.2 million cases. And no one ever talks about the backlog. And so one proposal in this report is if you've got unreasonable backlogs like that, stop intaking more applications until you get that backlog down to a manageable level before you resume taking on more applications.
Well, one of the things your report addresses is, upholding the Constitution and the rule of law. And, it doesn't matter how good the policies are. If you have states and cities who are going to say, well, we're not going to enforce these laws, we're going to declare ourselves a sanctuary from these laws. What do you do about the people who, even though you have good policies, refuse to comply with them?
Well, for the leaders of those states and localities, money talks, and so the federal government gives a lot of money to these state and local jurisdictions, and so those federal dollars should be turned off until the jurisdictions comply with federal law. It also is incumbent upon the citizens living in those jurisdictions to remind the mayors and the governors and the sheriffs that they just rejected those sorts of policies in this November election, and that American citizens are tired of having jobs and housing and tax dollars and public schools and emergency rooms taken away from the American citizens who pay for those services and given to people who aren't supposed to be here. And while we saw people show up for city council meetings in a few locations like New York City and the south side of Chicago, that needs to become much more the norm. We need to see that in Boston and Massachusetts and other parts of California, et cetera, so that these leaders get the message that if they don't change their policies, then they're going to be voted out of office.
So how much of this can be done by executive fiat versus having to go through the Congress and Senate?
A decent amount can be done through executive order, but what one president puts in place, another president can undo. So obviously, congressional statute is always going to be longer lasting. Unfortunately, we haven't had a major immigration bill pass through Congress since 1996. But the proposals in this report should be something that both sides can agree on, and that is a simpler, fair, and frankly, faster immigration system where if someone is eligible for a benefit, they get it quickly and can move on with their lives. And if someone is not eligible or is committing fraud to get it, they are denied quickly and removed from the country.
Okay, so I'm thinking we might see some filibuster action coming up on this.
I mean, if they do, then they don't want to solve the problem. And
I don't think they do.
And perhaps they just want the issue to raise money and to campaign on. But truly, we cannot be a country and continue with what we have been seeing these last 4 years. You can't have an open border in a welfare state. We can't afford it, and it's dangerous in terms of national security threats, public safety threats, and we cannot afford it.
Well, you don't need to tell me. I'm sure the listeners agree with you, too. Thank you very much, Laura Reese. Good job on the report. Sorry I didn't give you proper credit at the beginning. I didn't realize you had actually written it. I thought you were just reporting on the report. So thanks for coming on the James Show.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, you can find her work. That report's at heritage.org right now. More than 50 immigration policies and principles for the overhaul of the U.S. immigration system. So, yeah, we don't just have complaints. We don't just, bark grievances into the wind. There's actual solutions behind it. And when we put pen to paper, this is what a lot of them look like. Go check it out at heritage.org. Coming up in the next segment, I got a couple things I want to talk to you about. Number one, they're starting to do delivery robots for Uber Eats here in downtown Dallas. Do you think that's going to work? And then also, I don't like the idea that a court can stop Albertsons and Kroger from a merger. They're like, oh, we're just protecting you. Oh, well, I don't need you to be protecting me. I need cheaper groceries. And if this was the path to do that, you just made my life worse. So those two things are coming up next. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If you want to jump in on the conversation, it's 800-288-9227. Go ahead and call in. Maybe I'll talk to you if you have something good to say after I talk to Neil Sperry, who is hosting for the 45th year in a row the Christmas is for Caring charity fundraiser. Neil Sperry, you're doing some great work over there. I want to thank all the people who've already donated. Thank you very much, Neil. Neil Sperry. I know you've been hearing him on the weekends forever. I don't remember the weekends without this guy. Seriously, I don't. All right, a couple of stories that these aren't going to be big topics that we're going to talk about for hours on end. Just a couple of little thumbtacks I want to press into your mind here with the two quick stories. Number one is I'm looking forward to seeing these robots. They're doing robot deliveries now, and it looks like a trash can that got dumped over on its side, and they put 6 wheels from your kid's erector set on it. It looks like a toy. It really does. It kind of looks like one of those low effort robots that they did in the first Star Wars, where you could tell they didn't have a whole lot of budget, so they just took like the waste bin and painted it silver or whatever. There's not a whole lot going on. However, I can already think of a handful of issues. First, it doesn't weigh a whole lot, so couldn't you just steal it? Are people going to do that? Are these things going to get in wrecks in the road? Because it has to cross the street at some point. It can't just circle the block, right? Well, what happens when you're driving down the road and a car runs into one of those? You know, is that going to be a big problem for Domino's until we can adjust to it? Is there going to be a adjustment period and we get used to it and we stop hitting them? Are people going to steal from them? And you think, well, all they got to do is make it lockable. Well, are we going to have problems locking it and unlocking it? Are people going to be able to pick the locks? Are they going to be able to do the things that they do for the key fobs on the Kia cars where they can just hit a button and it opens up? And so there's another issue there. And then I'm just also thinking, you know, if it can take, you know, some sesame chicken from point A to point B, why not other things? Does this change that there's a whole sort of industry for couriers that have to serve you with like legal documents and whatnot? But also, could you put a dog in there? Yeah, I need to take my dog to get groomed, or take my dog to the kennel, or take my dog to the dog sitter. Could you stick a dog in there and say, all right, I need you to go all the way to my friend's house in Lower Greenville, and he makes it? What about a baby? Could you stick a baby in there when it's time to go to daycare? Can you just put Junior in there with the Bucky blanket, slap him on his butt, and close the drawer, and just, I don't know, you probably just drop a pin on your phone, and the little robot will go there. Could you do that? Could you put a baby in these things? So all kinds of unanswered questions, and these are sort of rhetorical. I don't have the answer for them, But I just want you to have these questions in mind because there's going to be reporting and there's going to be problems with these things. And I figure eventually we'll get it worked out and we'll all enjoy these things and they'll be the most normal thing in the world probably in about 5 years or so. But I also foresee some growing pains. The other big story that this isn't like real sexy to talk about or sensational because we're talking about two big corporations, but Albertsons and Kroger have been trying to merge for a while. And a court blocked it. And I almost never like when the court blocks a merger. It betrays quite a bit of economic ignorance, because I had a guy that just he's a regular guy that usually makes good comments, but Smacky over here on YouTube says monopolies don't make a damn thing cheap. Well, we weren't about to be faced with a monopoly if Kroger and Albertsons merged. Neither one of them are the top grocer. The top grocer these days is Walmart. And so maybe this is what we need so Albertsons and Kroger can stay alive and compete with Walmart. If they don't merge, the likelihood is it's probably more likely that they'll go out of business while trying to compete with the likes of a Walmart. But there's also, the Tom Thumbs of the world. There's also the Winn-Dixies of the world. There's also HEB, or out in Bug Tussle where I'm from, the dominant grocery store chain is Brookshire's. Florida and the Gulf Coast has their Publix. In Louisiana, they have Rouse's. So, we are far from a monopoly, number one. Number two, when you say monopolies don't make a damn thing cheap, that's untrue too. Sometimes they do. For a while there, I don't know if it's still the case, but when there was some monopoly lesson that was taught to me like 15 years ago, where over 90% of the aluminum here in America comes from Alcoa. And aluminum is still ridiculously cheap. Now, they have a monopoly of our market, but if they started jacking up their prices, our producers could buy from someone overseas. And so even though they have technically a monopoly, more than like 90 or 95% of the base aluminum market, actually, they are pretty cheap. And really, when you saw Windows have more than 90% of the PC operating system market, they didn't go crazy with the prices as well. So no, sometimes monopolies don't have negative consequences. Sometimes if monopolies do the right thing and keep products cheap or quality high, there's actually a pretty good recorded history of that. And also it's hyper rare for a monopoly to exist in a natural open market without government intervention. And for the few times it does pop up, it has a tendency to not last very long. Like for a while, Apple had a monopoly on the smartphone market with their iPhone, because they were the only people that were making smartphones. And that only lasted about, 3, maybe 5 years before Android and everybody else started getting into the game. So no, I'm not scared of monopolies. And if you've been trained to be scared of monopolies, you need to go unlearn all of that robber baron nonsense that the public schools fed to you. And really, I learned that in college too. They weren't robbers. They weren't barons. They weren't the gentry entitled elite. Almost all of them were self-made successful industrialists who did nothing but bring humanity forward and improved a lot of life of the ordinary citizen across the planet. Other than that, though, terrible guys. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, I'm going to dispel another myth that the media these days has just gotten so partisan and terrible compared to what they used to be. That's wrong. They've always been this terrible, and I'll prove it next with Evan Say It. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If you know two things about this show, number one is I love dispelling myths that are floating around out there that I'm tired of people saying. The other is I am not a big fan of the media. Now, one of the discussions I hear from people, especially when they're new to talk radio, is they're like, well, you know, my whole life I've just been kind of going with the flow, but here lately they've gotten so bad and the media's gotten so dishonest, and I like to just tap the brakes. Whoa, 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 whoa. The media's always been this bad. You're just starting to notice. And the guy who does this topic even better than me is the great Evan Sayet. Because, Evan, I remember you did a speech about 10, maybe 12 years ago where you spelled out the media got the three biggest stories of your entire life wrong. Is it fair to ask you to summarize that in like a minute or two?
I'm not positive what the stories would be because there are 10 and 20 and 50
So
of them.
I think you did this at Heritage Foundation. It was the...
actually, I did not. I did it at the Conservative Forum, which is now known as the Liberty Forum, and it was covered by C-SPAN, so anybody can just track it down on C-SPAN. But I pointed out that we were led back years ago, we were led to believe that Japan was an unstoppable economic juggernaut, when in reality they were plummeting into what is now a decades-long recession. All right, James, that's not just a little bit wrong. That is diametrically opposed to the truth. That is diametrically opposed to what is right.
And it was such a common trope in the early 90s that there was an episode of Seinfeld where Elaine's publishing house got bought out by the Chinese because it was just so common. They're taking over.
Oh, indeed. It was the conventional wisdom, and wisdom's not a word I use often when I talk about television shows, but it was the conventional wisdom back in the 80s and 90s that Japan was going to take over everything. Again, I didn't make up the phrase, unstoppable economic juggernaut is what the New York Times called them. And if you go back to the fall of the Soviet Union, right up until, remember how surprised and shocked we all were when the Soviet Union collapsed? Why were we so surprised?
Because we were told they were a co-equal superpower this whole time.
Indeed. So co-equal superpower to collapsing into non-existence is not just a little bit wrong. I mean, perhaps they didn't know the end result, but they could have supplied some clues along the way that the Soviet Union was on its way to being collapsed, but instead they continued to promote the notion that it was a co-equal superpower with the United States. I remember at the very beginning of the first Iraq War, the media swore that we were in a quagmire. And this was on the first couple of days. Well, when what came to be, when our troops then arrived in Baghdad, it was the culmination of the swiftest military victory of its kind in all of human history. Never had so much enemy territory, been traversed in so short a period of time. So quagmire and swiftest military victory of its kind is not a little bit off. It's diametrically opposed to the truth.
And you're talking about stories that happened 30 years ago. So people, if you think the media has changed or gotten worse, it's not. You've just started paying more attention. You've actually just probably started getting your information from better sources.
And I can tell you what it is that led to this, because it wasn't always true that it was diametrically opposed to the truth. There was a certain time along the way when the media went from biased to ideologically and intellectually corrupt. And that was along the way when it was taught in journalism school that we cannot be objective. See, it used to be your attempt, at least, was to be an objective reporter. Now, you had your biases and you had to satisfy your bosses, but nonetheless getting it completely wrong on major stories. And that's not just a one-day story. They had years to recognize Japan's economic shortcomings. They had years to recognize the Soviet Union's weaknesses. But what happened was, suddenly they were told that human beings cannot be objective, journalists cannot be objective, so now you had to be neutral. Okay, and what's the difference between objectivity and neutrality? And by the way, you'll recognize, James, in neutrality is sort of indiscriminateness. The difference is, let's say you're a sports reporter, all right, and you're covering the New York Jets Cincinnati Bengals game, and the Jets win 56-3. All right, now obviously that's never really going to happen, but this is my story, and I can tell it anyway.
Total fantasy, but we get the point.
Well, if you're an objective reporter, your article is all about how the Jets played a better game, how their quarterback was more accurate, how the defensive scheme was outstanding. But now let's say you're not allowed to be objective. You have to be neutral. You have to believe that both teams are equally good. Now, what is your reporting about if the score comes out that way? How do you explain two equally good teams coming to such disparate outcomes? Well, very clearly, the Jets must have cheated. Very clearly, the referees must have been in on it.
Well, that sounds like systemic privilege then, if the referees are in on it.
Well, they were probably bought off, and who could have bought them off except the rich owners? And why would they buy off because the New York Jets are? You begin to make up a storyline that explains away failure and conceives of success, as you say, as privilege or cheating. So instantly, your reporting becomes exactly the opposite of the truth. When you are required to be neutral but not objective, instantly your reporting goes from the Jets were a better team to the fact that the Bengals were victimized.
They were cheated. All right, now, if you like this little taste, he has 3 books. Just start with the first one, Kindergarten of Eden, and then work your way up from there. Where do they get your book at these days, Evan?
And let me remind them, Christmas is coming up. They make great Christmas gifts, including a children's book teaching children why they should not be afraid of man-made global warming. All right, and they can get all my books at Amazon. I'm going to send them just straight to Amazon.com.
Fantastic. Evan Sayett, I appreciate your expertise on the James Show. I love your brain and the way it works. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
All right, now I'm going to add to the foundation that Evan Sayett just built in the next segment because I have a list of the top 20 news stories of 2013. And he just, that media is god-awful now. They're absolute dog water right now. Evan just spelled out how 30, 40 years ago they were terrible. I'm going to show you how about 10, 11 years ago they were absolutely terrible. Their record of success and being correct in these huge stories is awful. You wouldn't allow these people to teach a 5th grade math class if they got this much stuff wrong. So stick around for a very damning list coming up in 4 minutes on The James Show. If you got any comments, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. This is my last chance to check in with Neil Sperry, hosting the 46th annual holiday charity fundraiser for the Denton State Supported Living Center. And this is the last time for people to pitch in on the sensory garden. Thank you very much. That's Neil Sperry. All right, to add on to what my previous guest so eloquently laid out, Evan Sayet was explaining to you that no, the media didn't all of a sudden get bad. It's not that MSNBC fell off the tracks or CNN used to be balanced and then they just got so partisan. They've always been this bad. And so he was spelling out how they were getting everything wrong when we were kids. You know, they were telling you whether it was Rocky IV or Red Dawn, you know, that the Russians, they were co-equal superpowers. No, they were really 3 months from not existing anymore and not being even able to hold on to the Ukraine. But look, there is no break from it. If you want to go in the times before that, I can show you articles where Walter Duranty at the New York Times was writing apologetic stuff about Hitler and how he's such a nice guy now that he got out of prison. He was saying nice things about the Stalin regime. It's really terrible. But look, let's do an intermediate rollout, because I was on talk radio in 2013, and it was about this time of year. And at the end of the year, there's a few hack topics that are always fun to do. And one of them is, well, what are the top news stories of the year? And so I remember I made notes. I have them from pretty much every year. So I went and pulled my notes from 2013. And I wanted to show you how even then the news was getting everything wrong. The number one news story of 2013, the Obamacare rollout. They were telling you this is going to be great. They've had 3 years to set up this website. And of course, we anticipate some speed bumps or whatever, but we're all looking forward and optimistic. And they were doing the reporting like this is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. You know how many people got signed up the first day the Obamacare website was turned on? This isn't a joke. I'm not exaggerating to make a point. This is the literal number. It is 6. 6 people. Number 2, the Benghazi attack. You were told that it was because some people got upset at a YouTube video and a spontaneous protest popped up that got a little out of hand. They just so happened to have some RPGs and small arms fire with them. But, you know, other than that, totally spontaneous, not a planned terror attack. And the fact that it was on September 11th is just a coincidence. You found out all of that was lies. The number 3 story of 2013, the IRS targeting conservative groups. You were told. Lois Lerner even went to Congress and was like, no, we certainly don't do that. They had to eat all their words after lying to you about it for an entire year. Number 4, the debt ceiling government shutdown. This was the sequestration battle. You were told that if we curtailed future spending by 3%, on the baseline, not even a spending cut, just instead of increasing spending by 6%, if we only increase it by 3%, we were told all kinds of calamity would happen. It would collapse the economy. Did the economy collapse in 2013 or 2014? No, it didn't. All of that reporting was a lie. Where they lied to you about the NSA is not spying on us domestically. Edward Snowden disproved that in 2013. The Boston Marathon bombing. If I go back and play the montages of the first day of reporting, they're like, well, this is very likely has the hallmarks of a right-wing terror attack, until we found out who it was. Gun legislation debate, the Iran nuke threat. That was the number 9 story of 2013. You were told then they're 9 months away from getting the nuclear bomb. Here it is, 11 years later, still don't have the nuclear bomb. Oh no, the media has not gotten worse. The media's always been this bad. You've just gotten smarter. 800-288-9227 if you want to. Oh, what am I doing this? The show's almost over. I'm just doing that out of habit. Well, dang it, I'm out of time for the James Show. Look, for all the people who already emailed in, they're like, yeah, I would like to go on Tuesday. Fine. Y'all are going to email in after I throw a hissy fit, but you didn't email in the first time I asked. I'll do it again. If I get 20 emails of people saying they can go to Richardson Bar and Grill on Tuesday, December 17th, that's just coming Tuesday, like 6 days from now at 7 p.m., I'll do it. It's not an official station event. I'm not going to run promos, but I'm not going to run a charity event. Let me know, james@wbap.com, or find me on Facebook and send me a message. Say, yes, I definitely would go, and make it worth your while. Thank you. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.